Appreciate it. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Had an opportunity to watch plenty of football while they sat around and ate mashed potatoes and turkey over the course of the long weekend. But excited to be here. It's a fun time of the year at NDSU, preparing for second round of the playoffs, and we're going to start with another program that has great tradition, great success. Have a ton of respect for Coach Houck and his program. Got to know him probably 8, 9, maybe 10 years ago, and I've stayed in touch with him quite often. Really respect. You just watch film and you see at the tempo which they play, the high level of execution, not only offensively and defensively, but you could tell they put a lot of time into special teams as well. And so we're gonna have our work cut out for us. They had a tremendous victory late Saturday night, and to be able to come back from a good SEMO team was impressive. And we've had a jump start a little bit. We practiced Saturday in the afternoon. Saturday's practice was a little bit of a mixed bag. Worked on some issues maybe that we've seen over the course of the year. Worked on some Montana, and then worked on some SEMO just because of the timing of the game or the televised game. So we didn't want to keep our kids up that late. But again, like I said, defensively, very good football team. Operate out of that 3-3. They're not afraid to bring pressure. They're really talented in the back end and have some kids up front that have shown to be really dynamic pass rushers and good versus the run as well. And then offensively, their quarterback is going to be the position that drives the success of that group. When you talk about Lucas Johnson, a guy who has great awareness, big arm, can make all the throws, can extend plays. Things that at different times during the course of the year we might have struggled with a little bit. So we got to do a really good job of trying to change up some pre- and post-snap pictures, keep him in the pocket, and we need to make him one-dimensional if we can, and that's a bigger task than probably than what I'm thinking right now. And then, the major concern with them offensively is just the number of explosive plays they've had during the course of the year. I think it's easily over 100. And then you tie in the explosive plays they've had on special teams. It makes you nervous. Big, long receivers, 50-50 balls become a critical element to the game. And so we're going to have a great week of practice. And we've started off that way. Our kids were as healthy as we're going to be right now moving into this time of the year. And I know our kids are very excited. And the fact that this is a program that has a lot of street cred to it, that's just, I think, heightened the excitement and the anticipation of this game for our kids. They know who Montana is, and they know the success that this program has had. And we look forward to having a packed dome this weekend. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
We haven't had a chance to catch up with you, since they announced the seedings. Just kind of your thoughts about your guys' path, the potential playoff road ahead for you guys.
Well, I think it's never easy. When you look at it, you probably cringe a little bit just knowing who potentially is out there. I think one of the positives this year is that we have the opportunity to play two teams that haven't been on our schedule for years. 2015 was the last time we had played University of Montana, and then SEMO has not been on our schedule. So I think that element, that excitement level of a new opponent in the dome is a positive. And so in regards to that, I think we're excited. But to play a team like Montana, it makes you a little nervous. I know the caliber of player they have, and I know the caliber of coaching that they get out there. And so we're going to have to have a really good plan on all three phases and a great week of practice.
Amount of experience, playoff experience that you have on the roster, how much of an X factor do you think that's going to be? And you mentioned a really anticipated game with Montana. How much do you think that playoff experience is going to be?
I think there's probably some value to it, but the minute that first kickoff happens, I think you can throw that experience. It's all about game day, and it's that moment right now. We have to be we got to play really well, and we got to execute at a high level, and we can't beat ourselves against a good football team.
Late to watch Montana and SEMO?
I did. I watched the entire game until the very end, and it was late, but it was good. It was a good game to watch, and as you guys saw, special teams were a critical role. Having a kick return and a punt return within about a 3 or 4 minute time span on the clock was critical as far as turning the tide and gaining momentum in that game.
Any update on, Joe Stuffle left the last game he played?
Still running around. We've been jogging at practice, so it's day to day right now at this time.
Any clarification on Hunter's injury and his status?
anticipate won't be available this weekend. Still working with some other medical experts kind of outside of our region to see just what the severity of the injury is and what his next step is.
In fact, a shoulder. And
Yep.
So you've talked about him
Running.
possibly being
He's running. So that's always exciting. It makes me smile when I see guys running at practice. And, when they start running, I want to know why they can't be playing. But our medical staff doesn't quite see it the same way I do.
Contact jersey or non-contact jersey for Eli?
I said running. Yep.
Obviously Jaden Price has been a part of,
Yep.
cornerbacks, but might he obviously play an elevated role with, Marquise being out, or just describe what Jaden's role might be now.
Jaden's played a lot of football while he's been here, and we're fortunate to have a fifth-year player like him that is an outstanding return specialist, but he's played a lot of football. And you go back to even 2021 season, he played a bunch of football. So we need to lean on his experience. There's going to be more reps for him, and there's not a young man that's more prepared than him, and I'm excited for JP moving into this week.
the bye week and putting the transfer portal news behind you. You have that week to maybe.
I tried to put it behind me as quickly as I could. Jeff, you guys know me well enough. I probably took it personal when those three young men came in and said that they were moving on. But as you sit back and reassess and analyze things, what I'm excited about now is we get the opportunity to go find three other young men that want to be here, and we get to coach the heck out of the guys that are currently here.
I guess to that end, Eli Green's the guy who seemed wanting to get the ball to now.
Sure.
Is he going to play an elevated role too?
I think he's been playing an elevated role lately, so he's a pretty talented young man. Came here from Farmington High School, has really worked hard, and we'll see where his ceiling is. But he's only scratching the surface of how we can use him, especially as a redshirt freshman right now.
Skills that he brings to the table, or what do you like?
He's got great speed. He's got a willingness to run across the middle. He's got good hands, in and out of breaks, full speed. He's not one of those guys that has to, slow down to get in and out of a break. And so I think and he's picked up our offense at a high rate. Coach Pauly's done a really good job of getting him prepared to play, and we're starting to see some benefits of his skill sets now.
Stands out about Lucas Johnson, Montana's QB, that really jumps off the screen when you watch
Well, some
him?
of the things, he can make every throw. He can throw off his back foot. He can extend plays. He knows what they want to do. Some of their RPO things make you nervous, especially on the perimeter when they want to throw a now screen or a bubble out there. They got good receivers, big, long receivers. Him coupled with their length of their receiving core makes me really concerned about 50-50 balls because, there's – either they're going to catch it, and I get worried about then the DPI that could be called as well, and that's just equally effective of a play. That's a positive play for the offense, and so we got to do a really good job of keeping them in front of us and trying to force him to have to make some poor decisions at times. And like I said before, that's easier said than done. We got to do a really good job of disguising some things as the week progresses.
See Simo doing in the first half that caused all that kind of consternation for Montana offensively?
I thought they did a really good job of running the football early. It seemed like it was effective, a very efficient run game. They had that back that had 1,500 yards. It was really good to see that this was the fourth year he'd been there. 4,000 yards over his career, big physical downhill back. I think their offensive line was playing well early. But again, there's a third phase of the game, and that phase caught up to him and really allowed Montana to get back into it quickly.
Malik Flowers, obviously, is a return man. Have you seen anyone in the Valley or the last couple of years similar to him, or is he reminiscent of another receiver you've maybe seen?
I don't want to compare because we do that too much, but I think he's very talented and, top returner in the country, kickoff returner, I think, or if not, he's near the top. But a big, long receiver that can go get it. They do a lot with him, put him in motion, try to find mismatches. But we're going to have a really good plan, in the secondary. How much man can we afford to play? Do we need to play some more big zone just to keep the ball in front of us?
With him on kickoffs, is it as simple as telling your kicker to kick it through the end zone, or how do you keep the ball out of his hands?
I wish it was, because if that were the case, we'd tell him to do that every time. But if we could do something like that, that would be great. just got to hit our lanes. We treat kickoff cover very similar to a defensive snap, and there's a fit to it, and we got to do a great job of getting off blocks, avoiding blocks, and stacking blockers, and hopefully then ultimately it comes down to tackling people. But they do a really good job from a schematic standpoint, and I anticipate Coach Hauk is heavily involved in that, being a former special teams coordinator.
Return is pretty good too. Junior Bergen,
Yep.
He's one of the top punt returners in the country. Same thing there.
Same thing. Big field return team. They utilize their personnel really well. They utilize him as a wildcat quarterback. You also put, when they get into empty, sometimes you'll see him line up in the backfield. Very talented kid. Trick plays. Number 5 seems to be wrapped around it. And so, again, special teams are a critical role, and their return teams are really good.
You don't run into them more on the recruiting trail? It's bordering. I know they hit Montana hard, but is it surprised you don't see them more often?
Well, I think part of their footprint is in the Big Sky is west of the state of North Dakota. I think we run into them a little bit. We've run into them in I think Minneapolis, Upper Minnesota, a little bit. Yes and no. They've been very successful. I can go back to previous times playing them, the number of kids they've had from the West Coast that were unbelievably dynamic, really good football players. So I'm sure they have some niches carved out, and Montana has one of those names that you recognize. And I'm sure Coach Hauk, in his experience, wants to utilize those connections that he has.
Joe Stuffle's unable to go. Does Finn Diggins fill that role? I see you got Logan Hofstedt listed as your backup, or is it fullbacks and Finn Diggins?
It's going to be fullbacks and Finn. Carson Williams has been on a path to got to hurry up and get ready, at least maybe provide a little bit of depth for us this week. And so I think you're going to see a number of different bodies there. You could see Logan, you could see Hunter Brosio, you could see Finn, you can see Carson playing that spot.
Describe about Nick Kubitz, kind of a question mark that you didn't know throwing in to start, how his year has progressed and what you've seen there.
He's done a really good job. Nick has kind of evolved. He played Sam when he first got here from Dubuque, Iowa, and then moved to Will, and then kind of finally settled in this year at Mike linebacker. Has done a really good job. The biggest challenge for a guy moving into that position is the communication piece. There's so much of what we do defensively relies on the Mike and the strong safety, and we've been fortunate over the years to have really good players, but great communicators at those two spots. And Nick, and that forced Nick to have to come out of his shell a little bit. I remember other linebackers we've had there by the name of Nick who weren't real vocal earlier in their career and had to come out of their shell a little bit. He's done a great job, but he's also his role on special teams. He's been great. He's helped us on punt. He's helped us on kickoff cover. He's got great speed. He's good in the open field, solid tackler. So really, when you have two guys that can play that spot and play it effectively, we're extremely fortunate.
Give away the kitchen sink, but now with the playoffs here, is there a potential we could see a freshman or a guy that hasn't played to use one of their 4 games?
I think you could. That was one of the benefits of last week. Did a ton of drill work, special teams wise, just trying to identify who's kind of elevated themselves over, since August till now. Who could help us on a kickoff cover? Who could help us on a punt team or a punt return somewhere if we needed them to? But again, we're going to try to redshirt as many kids as we can, just because of the nature of the COVID year and how that impacts our roster management right now. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.